Okay, Rav.
Yes.
Our next question is, who and what is Moshiach ben Yosef, the Messiah, the son of Joseph, versus another Moshiach we hear of, the main Moshiach we hear of, who is Moshiach ben Dovid, the Messiah, the son of David.
So there are actually two Mashiachs. There are two concepts of Mashiach. One is Mashiach ben Dovid, Mashiach the son of David, for the tribe of Yehuda. And one is Mashiach ben Yosef, for the tribe of Yosef. And the fact that we learn in these Torah portions that we're reading, is that there's a big struggle between Yehuda and Yosef. By Yigash Yehuda approaches Yosef. And the way it's understood is that the brothers said that Yosef was a Mord Malchus. That means Yosef was trying to achieve royalty, Malchus kingship, and really that belonged to Yehuda. And what was not understood, and maybe Yosef didn't understand at that point, but eventually it was understood, it became clear that there was Malchus Yehuda, there was the kingdom of Yehuda, and Yehuda had a kingdom, and that was Malchus based David, that's the house of David, house of David. And then there's Malchus Yosef, there is Mashiach ben Yosef, there's a concept of Mashiach ben Yosef, but Mashiach ben Yosef, as Yosef eventually lives his life, is Yosef never becomes the king of Egypt. He never becomes the person, the highest in command. He becomes the second in command, which means that he's there as a harbinger. He's there as a pedestal for Mashiach ben David. This Mashiach ben Yosef is the preparatory step, and then after Mashiach ben Yosef, then comes the idea of Mashiach ben David. The Arizal writes that when we daven and we say that the Chisei of David, the throne of David, we're not talking about David HaMelech, the king, which is Mashiach, which is an Samach, which is the next passage. But when we're talking about Chisei David Avtocha, the throne of David HaMelech, we're talking about the throne of Mashiach ben Yosef, where he's the Kisei for David HaMelech, which will eventually allow for David HaMelech. And the Arizal says the Chai Vital brings down, the student of the Arizal brings down that the Arizal says you should have intention that when you say V'chisei David that Mashiach ben Yosef should not die or be killed. And the Chai Vital brings down that they were once by the cave of Shmai Vatalion, by two of the great sages of the Talmud, of the Mishnah, and the Arizal told his students to have this intention. And they didn't have this intention, and the Chai Vital says that the Arizal passed away that year, very shortly afterwards, and they didn't have that intention. So the Arizal was understood by his students and by himself to be Mashiach ben Yosef, not Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben Yosef, that he was Mashiach ben Yosef. So we have to understand what is Mashiach ben Yosef. So we have really two, in the matriarchs, there are two major figures. One is Rachel and one is Leah. So Rachel, which is the mother of Yosef and Binyamin, Rachel is Yefas Toyer, Yefas Mar. Rachel is someone that looks very beautiful in the external, which means that she represents the Alma Dizgalia, the world of the revealed. And therefore also Yosef, we can assume also Binyamin, Yosef was Yefas Toyer, the Torah says that he was also very beautiful. Leah, Ve'ena Leah Rakos, the eyes of Leah were rakos. The Targum says, the translation, rakos also means beautiful, yoin, but it's like an inner beauty. That it's that this idea of internal beauty through the eyes. I mean, you're looking deeper, which is the idea of Alma Deskasia, the hidden world. And later on in history, there's going to be the kingdom of David the Melech, who's going to be the first established king. But before David HaMelech, which is from the house of Yehuda, there was Shaul HaMelech. There was King Shaul. King Shaul was in the house of Binyamin from Rachel. And he was seen as Mashiach ben Yosef, contrast to Mashiach ben David. That's why Shaul HaMelech, the King Saul, was Mashiach Levayim Kolam. He was very tall and handsome. And when they saw him, they saw that that's a king. That's the way a king looks like. He looked like a king. But when Shmuel HaNavi Samuel the prophet is going to anoint David HaMelech as a king, King David, the Torah says, the Hashem tells the Shmuel, Al Tabit Amareo, don't try to find the most appropriate looking king, because he's not. David HaMelech was short and blonde hair, blue eyes, he was red hair, he didn't look like a king. Al Tabit Amareo, because he represents something that's concealed, a concealed type of hidden. But what strikes you first, what you see first, is who's the king? The tall one, the tall, handsome one, the strong one. So that's the first impression. That's the first Moshiach, the Moshiach ben Yoseph aspect, which is the first impression, the revealed world, Alma Deskaya, and then comes the Asa, the future, the Alma Deskasia. So the present, the Achshavi, the present moment is the world of revelation, the world of Isgalus, and the future is the world of the concealment. So another way of saying this is that Moshiach ben Yosef is a redemption. It's a redemptive quality within exile, within Gullus, and Mashiach ben Dovid is a redemptive quality from Gullus. They're two separate statements. One is a redemption, a geula, a redemption within exile, within Gullus. That's Mashiach ben Yosef. That's why Mashiach ben Yosef fights the battles, fights the wars before Mashiach comes. And the Gemara says that he fights Edom. The Gemara says that he's doing battle within exile. Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David is a redemption from exile. There's no longer any exile. Mashiach ben Yosef quality, Mashiach in every generation is the Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David. The Mashiach ben Yosef, the tzaddikim, it's very interesting to think about this in a very big scale, not to get into too much detail. But the Arizal was seen as Mashiach ben Yosef, as a Mashiach ben Yosef, by his Talmidim, by his students, by himself, not as Mashiach ben David, because what the Arizal did, the Arizal revealed an understanding how we can make sense of our lives in exile, in Gullus. One of the main revelations of the Torah teachings of the Ari, especially after the expulsion of the Jews in Spain in 1491, after the tremendous upheaval that Klal Yisrael experiences, really tremendous upheaval Klal Yisrael experienced, and then there was a tremendous migration of many great tzaddikim that lived in Sas. The Arizal gave voice to understanding what Gullus is. What's the whole objective of Gullus? Why we disperse throughout the nations? What's the idea of Bir and its the desolation of sparks? Which gave us a certain, alleviated us of the pain of exile. It didn't redeem us from exile, but it gave us a way to understand exile, to understand Gullus. So it was a Mashiach quality, a Mashiach ben Yosef quality within exile. The same thing, fascinatingly, a lot of the tzaddikim, real tzaddik Amos, that had sparks of Mashiach in a very, very strong way, and people spoke about them this way. For example, let's say the Ramchal, or which Moshe David Valley was Mashiach ben David, and he was Mashiach ben Yosef. Or even the Gra, Mendel Shklaver, write about their teacher, the Gra, that he was Mashiach ben Yosef, is besides being a Renaissance scholars, I don't know if Renaissance scholars is the right word, but this comprehensive scholars of Kol HaTorah Kula, which was able to gather in the entire Torah, which is a quality of Mashiach ben Yosef, to bring the Yofi HaTorah, is also the Gra and the Ramchal were very interested in finding Kabbalistic patterns, spiritual patterns of the creation story within time. That the nimshal of the teachings of the Ari, according to the Ramchal, and certainly according to the Gra, was found within Zman, within time. To see Anhagas HaMishpat, Anhagas HaYichud, to see certain things within time.
Would that be history?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. To see it through the lens of history. What that does, it gives you, it's a Mashiach ben Yosef quality, because what it does is, it says, okay, so we're here in the map. Like, okay, so we're now in the last 1,000 years correspond to the 10 parshas of Devarim. So we'll know exactly, we're like in year 6,000, we're in the middle of something like that. So we know exactly which parsha is. We can see like a process. We can say, the world is moving towards a certain process. And another person, for example, that The grows also the grows. But this comes from the growth. This idea of the tempartius and the time period. Very much this idea. The Baal Shem Tov writes. The Baal Shem Tov once said on the Orach Chaim HaKadosh that when that he said now Moshiach ben Yosef came into Eretz Yisrael when he came to Yerushalayim. But that's more about a gathering of understandings, or the Chayzel Lum one sense of Sham Shalas Tupaler. Sham Shalas is one of the great Mekubalim that were killed in 1648 in Dach V'Tacht. One of the great Mekubalim. But also there was in the pain of exile, the pain of real, the heart of real darkness, there's some type of redemptive process. This is like a Moshiach ben Yosef quality. This is a Moshiach ben Yosef. Then there are tzaddikim. There are tzaddikim that people subscribe to the Moshiach ben Dovid quality, not Moshiach ben Yosef quality. And there's a oimik to it. There's a reason for that. That Moshiach ben Dovid quality, we'll say the Baal Shem Tov, and I'll say like this: there's certain tzaddikim that are being pushed from the past, and certain tzaddikim are being pulled from the future. And the Mashiach ben Yosef neshamas, these are goyalim, these are redeemers on many levels. That they brought a certain understanding that allows us to live within exile, and then Mashiach ben Dovid quality of these neshamas, these tzaddikim, and in Chassidus it was definitely more Mashiach ben Dovid. And even with the Rebbe, Mashiach ben Dovid, there's a reason for this is because it's Mashiach ben Dovid is a quality of showing keys of redemption. Not when you're stuck in Golus, I'm going to give you tools how to deal with Golus, with exile. I'm going to give you tools how to break out of Golus. And Golus HaPrati, Golus HaKlali, but certainly Golus HaPrati, the individual state of exile, of constriction. I'm going to give you tools that are going to, the Torah Chassidus says that it's the Oy Shivas Yom, it's the light of Mashiach. It's the light of Mashiach because it's the light of the future that allows us to break through the Golus in a present moment. This is the Mashiach ben Dovid quality that there are. So there are two strong strands. I think in every generation there's tzaddikim, and it's always has tzaddikim that are there. There's some tzaddikim that are connected more to Mashiach ben Yosef quality. They're like, how do I make exile better? How do I allow people to deal with their dramas and traumas in a better way? And there's some people that try to show that there is no trauma, there's no drama. You can live in a higher level of which is Oragula of Mashiach ben David. So these are two paths. And when you say V'chisidav da'avdecha meher satzmiach, that Mashiach ben Yosef, and then later Samach David Avdecha, which is Mashiach ben David, I think that on some level, besides talking about the Mashiach, the person, not you, but you also have to think about it in terms of your own life, because just like there's a Mashiach ben David within every person, there's a Geula, there's a level of Yechita Shebenefesh in a person. There's also Mashiach ben Yosef in every person. Every person has a nitzis of Mashiach, a spark of Mashiach. And a person has two types of sparks of Mashiach. A spark of Mashiach of nitzis of Mashiach ben Yosef, which is, and we have to daven that it shouldn't die. We have to daven that it shouldn't be killed. What does it mean? It's like, you try to help people, you try to give them nechama, you try to give them comfort, you try to help another friend of yours. But over time, it doesn't go and it falls on deaf ears, you say, forget it, you give up. So you should die that part of the Mashiach ben Yosef within you, that part that wants to help people, even in their smallness, even the constriction, even the place of their own galus, to alleviate a little bit of the pain of that tzara, should always be alive. And certainly the Mashiach ben David within us, the spark of redemption, the spark of Gula, the spark of Yechidah Shebenefesh, the highest level of our soul that's redeemed, should always be alive and awake. And from the Gula Pratis, from the internal, personal, redemptive state that we experience, we should be Zaychit to have the Gula Klolos Meir V'Yameinu.